Welcome back. Welcome back. I am Demetrius Wright, and I'm sitting here today with a very, 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 very special person, Superwoman. All right, a real Superwoman, y'all, for real. Introduce yourself to the folks that may not know who you are on my platform.
I am Lisa Colston. I'm just a mom, a wife, sister, a friend. Some people call me Superwoman.
Now, for real.
Some people call me Supermom, but I'm Lisa Colston. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nah, for real. Thank you for taking the time out to sit down with me, for real.
Thank you for having me.
And sis hooked us up. You know what I'm saying? We got a mutual
Mm-hmm.
line, so it's a blessing, for real, for real.
Yeah.
Great folks.
Mm-hmm.
Fought
Always.
together. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you, for real, for real. We met probably maybe close to about 7 years ago. 7 to 8, maybe about 10.
I was thinking maybe more like 10.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, and I remember when you was like tied to the music industry. So let the people know a little bit about that before we dive. Like,
Well, I sort of dove into the music industry because of my son, Fresh the DJ, who was 10 years old when he started DJing. And he, at 14 years old, signed with Off the Chain Management in Atlanta. And we moved from Birmingham, Alabama to Atlanta to pursue his career. Yeah. And I had a career change too. I had been in the nightclub industry, hosting events. And once I moved from Birmingham to Atlanta for my son's career, I decided I chose a career in entertainment, and I started to manage Tokyo Vanity and Skipper the Flipper.
That's my guy right there. Skipper, like, that's my dude. Shout out to Skipper.
Skipper.
How you doing?
He's great.
What are you up to? He's still
music. He's living in Vegas, and he's doing great.
Nah, for real. I gotta really tap back in because I haven't been following him like that. Yeah, I should have.
He's on the back burner just a little bit. He's put himself on the back burner just a little bit to sort of revamp himself. Yeah. You know, some artists need that at times.
Right. Nah, that's what's up though. And Tokyo Vanity.
In Tokyo, yeah, she moved from New Orleans out here to Atlanta, and I assisted her. I was her manager up until September 16th of 2020, when my son was tragically hit by a car while riding his dirt bike in California.
And that changed.
Everything immediately.
So, yeah, let's touch on that. Yeah, everybody in your family's life changed at that point.
The moment my son was hit, we were all hit. We were all hit. Right. It was the word that I use most to describe it is unimaginable. The pain is unimaginable because you feel like, oh, I've had my heart broken before, but my heart had never been broken until I heard and actually saw my son in that condition.
Right.
Yeah, my heart was broken. So yeah, we were shattered, to say the least.
And do you take us back to like, what was you doing at that point when you got that call saying,
yeah,
get here, we need you right now?
Well, asleep. It was 1:00 in the morning. We were in Birmingham.
You was in Birmingham.
I was in.
He was in
LA. He was in Moreno Valley, California.
So the time changed to 3 hours.
Yeah, it was like 10:00, 11:00 there.
Yeah.
They had been dirt biking in the mountains all day, and it was COVID, so it wasn't a lot that you could do. But they picked up dirt biking, right. And they had took a U-Haul and rode the bikes up in the mountains. And after dark, they loaded the bikes back on the U-Haul and drove the truck home and unloaded the bikes and decided to circle the block one last time before they put the bikes up for the night. Two of the guys that were riding with them took all of their gear off, his helmet, the jackets, the pants, and my son continued to wear his. He was the only one that didn't get undressed in time for them to pull off. So a couple of the guys had on wife beaters, flip-flops, and shorts.
Yeah.
They circled the block, wanted to go into a biking trail that's near their house. And as they crossed the street, a car seemingly came out of nowhere, and two of the guys that were riding a front of Fresh, one of them, the light was yellow for him, and he took the light. My son was behind him, and he had on the dirt bike bib, and the bib from the dirt bike is, long like
It's
a beak,
long, so it's
and
blocking.
so he was bit down on the bike, head down, only looking at the bike in front of him, the person that was leading. And when he went through the light, my son just went through behind him. He never looked to see if a car was coming because he trusted the bike that was in front of him. And as bikers, if you are a biker, no man left behind. You don't go through the light unless it's clear everybody that's behind you.
Right.
And not blaming him, it was an accident. It was something that was going to happen regardless to what we thought and how we wanted to happen.
True.
So yeah, he was hit at about 60 miles an hour. He suffered traumatic brain injury. When he was hit, he went into shock. So he was trying to get up after he was hit.
Right.
And they were trying to drag him out of the road, saying, Fresh, lay down. They noticed that he was bleeding from his ears, bleeding from his nose, bleeding from the head. And they made him lay down. Once the paramedics came, he blanked out, and they intubated him right there on the scene. And it was a fight from that moment on. That's when the fight started.
And that day was, I know you'll never forget it. Day.
Yeah. September 16th, 2020. Almost 5 years ago.
Right.
Almost 5 years ago. And at that time, hearing them say, okay, we get the phone call, the roommates are screaming, Fresh has been hit by a car, they're taking him to the hospital, and we don't really know anything.
Right.
And they wouldn't tell him anything because they're not the parents, they're not family.
Right.
They're saying, here's his ID, but they would not take his ID from them. They had him listed as a John Doe. And they were constantly asking, beating on the windows, it's COVID. And at this time, thousands of people were dying a day.
Right.
The attention was really on people surviving with the common cold.
Facts.
So them giving those young people attention outside, asking about somebody in an accident when people were dying at thousands.
Right.
And once they called us, they could just say, we don't know. They were able to give the hospital our phone number because they wouldn't tell them anything. And one of the roommates says, here's his mom's phone number. Like, please call them. They're in Atlanta. So one of the doctors called and says, we just want to tell you, what's happened. He's involved in an accident, and there is swelling on his brain at this point. And we're just going to watch it and, see what happens. But he's currently sedated. And, if anything changes, we'll let you know. Well, within an hour, they call back and says, now there's also bleeding on the brain. So he's bleeding on the brain and swelling. And we're going to watch it. And if anything changes, we'll let you know, basically. My Tokyo booked me our flights, and we drove from Birmingham to Atlanta, which seemed as if it were maybe a 10-hour drive, and it was raining. And I was just, as a mom, as a parent, the fear of not knowing.
Right.
Because if I can talk to him, well, can I talk to him?
Right.
No, you can't talk to him. Sedated? Like, how bad is it? And still, I was just thinking, he tough. I know my son.
That's Fresh.
This Fresh. Yeah. When I get there, it's going to be a little bump on his head, and it's going to be something very minor. But the conversation with the doctor, once we made it to Atlanta, they called back one time and said, we said that we're boarding the flight, and the stewardess from Delta, my husband, I was just a mom that was unconsolable. So he's trying to explain to them, why she ain't standing up, why she slobbering, why she crying nonstop, because it's the fear of the unknown. And once we got on, Delta was able to communicate with the hospital and somehow, to receive messages, because they knew that it was an emergency.
Right.
And the last message that we got said that they were preparing him for surgery, and we were, taking off, and that was a 5-hour flight, which was the longest 25 hours that. And once we landed, my friend Sean lived in LA at the time. Her daughter picked us up from the airport and took us directly to the hospital. And when we got there, we're thinking, okay, we're just going to walk right in. There are tents in the parking lot because it's COVID. They're not allowing people to come into the emergency room. So they're like, oh, just go have a seat over there in that tent.
Right.
We just came 5 hours on a flight. My son's fighting for his life. We don't want to sit in the tent. So I went live. And I was trying to go live to get some assistance to just tell people what was going on, but the service was bad. And I just started to try to call my family and try to tell, people what was going on. We don't know, because everybody was just saying, just call us when you land, tell us something. Well, after staying out there for maybe an hour, screaming, crying, we were able to get another call from the doctor, and I told him, he's like, let me know when you get here. We here, we've been here.
Yeah.
They told him that because he was not at the end of life at that time, they couldn't allow us to come in. That they was going to go ahead and take him to surgery, and they would let us know. And the doctor came downstairs and sort of told us that to our face at the door.
Right.
And I held the door, and I was just like, no, I'm going. Please let me in. Just, you got to let me see him. And I begged and I cried. And Dr. Swice, the neurosurgeon, he grabbed my hand. He says, I'll take her up. I'll be responsible. And he took my hand, and I grabbed my husband, and he took us upstairs to ICU where he was. And at that time, he just had like all the skin was off of his face from when they hit him, he flew off of the bike, his head hit the concrete, and the helmet popped off. So when his head hit the second time with the helmet off is when the brain injury happened, and the road rash when the skin came off of his face, and all of he had on a Honda jacket, the pants. So all of that, the scraping was so bad that it scraped through the clothing, through his skin, all the way up on the left side of his body. So to see him there, his face was, a bunch of superficial scars, and I was looking at my husband. I was like, oh, he doesn't look that bad. Okay, it's not that bad, because he had all of his hair. So when the doctor came in, he was like, yeah, but he's not good. The bleeding, we're going to shave this side of his head, and we're going to, make an incision. And he started talking, and I was like, okay, but he doesn't, thinking he still doesn't look that bad, because on the outside, there was all of the superficial scars, like it was just skin removed. But he still looked the same. But it was skin off of his nose, off of his lip, off of his chin, and they had this bandage. But again, to me, he still looked like my son, who had just been in a bit of an accident.
Right.
Well, to my surprise, after that, they'd took him and said, let us stay in there maybe 3 minutes. We prayed with him. I, called a couple of people on the phone and, said, let's say a prayer.
Yeah.
And they took him, and I, held on as long as I could. They let us walk all the way to the operating room, and then escorted us back downstairs outside to the little tents to wait for maybe 6 hours as they completed this surgery. And after, they said, okay, it seems as if the surgery is successful.
Right.
We were not, because they were saying that they may have to put a shunt. We didn't put the shunt. We just removed the skull, and we're going to put it in his belly. And this is what they told us. They'll cut you and take the skull and stick it in your belly and close you back up. And that's how the skull stays alive.
I did not know that.
With your body. It stays in your stomach. And then when you're ready to have the skull put back on, they'll cut you back open, because it's a living part of your body. They want it to still, for whatever reason, they want it to still be a part of your body. So we're thinking, because after we saw him, he had this long cut down his belly and his head was bandaged up, and we could clearly see that there was some dreads hanging on this side and they shaved this side. So again, they did let us see him for maybe 10 minutes after the surgery.
After the first one.
After the surgery, they let us see him for maybe 10 minutes and said he's going to ICU and you guys are going to have to leave. And once I got up there and saw him, I just felt like if I leave, he's going to die. I just felt like they're going to kill him. I told my husband, I said, I can't leave. I just really feel like they're going to kill him because it's so much going on in this hospital. It was COVID.
Right.
The nurses were running so fast, all of these. It was just
too much going on.
So much. And I said, who's going to be watching him? I just can't leave. So I held the bed and it was like, they're going to call the police. And I cried and I prayed and I cried and I begged and I cried and it didn't work. They still said,
you got to go.
We got to go. And they allowed us back the next couple of days for maybe 30 minutes a day.
Okay.
But other than that, we were sitting in the parking lot. So my husband and I.
You never left the premises.
I couldn't.
You couldn't.
I couldn't leave. And my husband and he sat right there with me. We would probably leave to go get a bite or go to the bathroom because they would not even allow us inside to use the restroom. They had the little porta potties out there, but we would leave to go to the bathroom and come right back. And maybe after about 4 days, they began to say every day your visit, 30-minute visit, we're going to give you an update on what's going on. So now is at the point 3 or 4 days have passed. I haven't done anything on social media. They're saying we have to get him on a trach. We need to put a trach in him and we need to put the trach in really quick so he don't catch pneumonia. Well, before they can put the trach in, he caught pneumonia. And then that's where it happened. Everything went downhill.
Downhill from there.
Downhill. His lungs kept collapsing. His organs started to fail. 24-hour dialysis, heart failure, kidney failure. The brain was continuing to swell. They were saying, initially, they said, we give him about a 22% chance of survival. So we were like, 22%? Wow. Oh my God, Lord Jesus, 22%? When they say someone have a 50% of chance of survival, you're like, okay, 50-50, but 22, it was low. A few days later, after his organs started to shut down, they changed it. And I looked on the paper. I told my husband, I said, this says 8%. It changed.
It went from 22 to 8.
To 8%. So every day they would pretty much basically tell us, you could pretty much say your goodbyes, because we just don't think he's going to make it through the night. If he makes it through the night, we'll look at this tomorrow. If he makes it through the night, we may consider this tomorrow. Well, every day he made it through another night. And every week it seemed as if something came to set us back. So, okay, his lungs collapsed. We got a chest tube. Okay, he has a chest tube, and we'd go 2 or 3 days, and then 2 days later, he has another collapse in another space in his lungs, another chest tube, and the doctor says, well, 3 chest tubes. He said, this is so very strange. We've seen him, 4. After about 2 weeks, he had 6 chest tubes, and they said they'd never ever seen that happen, and they were going to use his case for teaching purposes because they just couldn't believe that he was still hanging on. But I was in there every day saying,
hands on.
Bruh, as I was talking to him, they have literally given up on you. I said, they've given up. These people you have got to show them who you are and what you're made of. Give me something. I know you hear me. Give me something. Move your finger. I need something. And it was just nothing. But all of that time, and I would pray to God to say, save my son, and I'll do anything. anything, just save my son. I know he's your child, but if it's meant for him to be here, and I really think that he's here, God, show me what to do. But if you're going to take him, and that was the hardest prayer to pray. And another mom of a survivor told me that, she's like, you're going to have to ask God if he going to take him or if he going to leave him. She's like, you got to do it quick. And
not to cut you off, but before this right here, was there any, like, anything in you was like, just give up?
Never. Give up on what?
Like you said, like they telling you, like there's nothing we can do.
But I'm asking you, give up on what? On him? Yeah. Myself? On God? None of the above. It was never an option.
Right. Facts.
It was just I never thought of leaving that hospital without him. Never one time.
That's what's up.
Never.
As a parent, I could feel that.
And never one time thought of leaving. I was just like, if he leaving, I'm going too. We're gonna have to leave here together, because I felt like if he dies, I will die.
It's over for you.
I felt like it. I felt like I was gonna have to go too. I couldn't let him. I couldn't let him go, and I told him that every day.
Yeah.
Listen, you safe. And then after I started to do research, so I just went to YouTube and I started researching brain injury. How many people survive? And then research started telling me not very many. With a brain injury this bad,
it was slim.
Very slim. He's going to be in a vegetated state. You know, he may be paralyzed, because they were saying that he wouldn't talk, he wouldn't walk, he wouldn't do anything. He would be in a vegetative state. So I just, I felt like, again, as a parent, I just couldn't leave. And then God told me so. I asked him. I was able to have that very difficult conversation maybe after he'd been in the hospital for about a month.
Yeah.
A whole month.
I
had the conversation with God.
Yeah.
If it's your will, show me what to do and help me fight. Give me the strength that I need.
This is the right spot.